Hey guys, welcome back to another week of the Get to Know Me series. For being here today, That's right. It's the Get to Know Me series here from the Salvation Army, and I am your host, Captain Mike. Thanks for joining us this week. And what a show do we have this week? We have a great guest that I have personally been following for many years now. Our family has spent many late nights watching this man do his thing online in the card collecting world. Today we have Director of Marketing for Sports and Entertainment of GTS Distribution, Mr. Rob Bertrand. And we're going to check out Rob in action right now.
Our category manager, Jim Lynch, of supplies, recently got me on the samples list for Ultra Pro, who's always been kind to this program. But what that means is now we get to show off some products before they ever actually hit the store shelves. There's just a small quantity of this stuff in-house right now, or in the country right now, rather. So, but all of these products will be debuting this year. Well, these might be out. I don't know. But first things first. For those of you who like black border one touches.
That's right. It is Rob Bertrand, the man with the inside track, gets it before anyone else in the entire country. He's got the setups, he knows the connections, and we get to benefit each week. Rob, thanks for joining us on Get to Know Me.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mike. The one thing that I noticed on that sizzle reel, it's really good that I don't have ugly hands.
Well, you manicure a couple times. You got a post-retirement career in a couple magazines. That's all you need.
So, that's right.
Well, Rob, again, it's so good to have you here. And Rob has a very interesting job and jobs. He's got his fingers in so many different things, and mainly in the hobby and collecting world. And as I said, he is the Director of Marketing for Sports and Entertainment for GoGTS Distribution. Now, Rob, we have a lot of kids watching this and some adults that may have no idea what those words mean. So could you maybe give us a little insight onto what the day in the life of Rob Bertrand looks like?
Sure. For starters, GTS Distribution is the world's largest distributor of sports trading cards, entertainment trading cards, collectible card games, board games, supplies. And I work in the sports and entertainment division, as you mentioned. As the Director of Marketing, it's my job to help educate our customers, which are your typical hobby shops and stores, on new products, players, industry news. But then we also take it a step further by helping educate the end user, which is our customers, aka the collectors, on various aspects of those things as well. So it's kind of a multifaceted job. It's unique in the sense that typically in a marketing career, you might be marketing on a B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer. But because of the unique situation that I'm in with GTS Distribution, we have to communicate to both audiences. So it provides a tremendous opportunity to be able to practice some diverse things when it comes to marketing, including GoGTS Live, as you mentioned, which has been airing, I don't know, I think we're in our 7th year now, Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch and YouTube. And so it's been quite a journey getting here, and it's something that I still enjoy. You know, they say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And it's really, really true. Now, are some days more difficult than others? Or do you come out of some meetings and emails wanting to pull your hair out? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I get to talk about trading cards. I mean,
Right.
come on.
Right. How awesome is that? Yeah, it's insane. And so in kind of hearing back, and there's a lot of big words in there that, we may, the layperson may not know or the kids may not know. But the way I hear it is kind of, if you were the person in charge of the product, your job is to talk to Walmart and to talk to the customer that walks in the door. And you're to make both aware of those products so that they can be sold for the companies that you serve. And in your case, that's Topps, Panini, Cryptozoic, on and on and on. Am I getting that about correct?
Yeah, on a macro level, absolutely. The one thing that I would correct is that there's a whole nother side of the equation that deals with distribution of those products to big box retailers. We specialize in
Right.
the smaller mom and pop shop,
Right.
your local card shop down the street, your local gaming store. So those specialty retailers, and being able to assist them by providing information, marketing materials, and whatnot to help them be the best that they can be. In fact, our company motto is partners in success.
Right.
And really, when we can help make when our customers are successful, we're successful, and vice versa. And so with that in mind, that has an overarching kind of philosophy on everything that we do.
Right. And that makes it so much for me hearing that, like, you almost get double the enjoyment because you get to have your hobby stores enjoy receiving great deals and product, but then you get to see the online results, especially nowadays with breakers and with people posting on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook when they
And
actually open the
TikTok.
product. And TikTok, yes, I don't have it.
I don't
Probably be
have it
forced
either,
to.
but I know the young kids love it.
Yes. So, but you see, Drake pulling on TikTok and trying to go after the logo, man. But you get to see the store owner, and you get to see the actual kid or parents or whatever opening and pulling their favorite player, their favorite actor, all this other stuff. So you almost get double reward for your job.
No doubt. Absolutely. It's extremely rewarding to see, the life cycle of what I do starts months ahead of when a product is actually released. So to see, the various stages of, product awareness come into play and fruition with people actually opening, enjoying, and interacting with the product. Yeah, it's extremely rewarding.
Oh, that's so great. And so I want to set a little stage for you, Rob. It's about, I want to say now, 5 years, 6 years, and I'm at home in Athol, Massachusetts at the time, and I'm on the Twitter machine, and I'm scrolling through, and all of a sudden I see a card that I wanted, and I've been a card collector since about 91 when I walked down to my corner gas station, spent 75 cents to get Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite player at the time, and Bo Jackson, trying to get his football card and trying to get Griffey's baseball. And so I'm scrolling through and I see this card and then I see that it's connected to a GoGTS live, and I click on Periscope at the time and I start watching it. And then I learn that card I actually can win, and I retweet and I do all this thing and fast forward. And my wife and I are faithful viewers, and we watched, and we have won quite a few cards that are just amazing to us and in our collection. And our kids watch it when we let them stay up late enough, and or they'll watch the replay, and they've come to recognize you and your co-host Ivan. And so can you just kind of tell us about this amazing really kind of groundbreaking show that you guys put on that is now commonplace, but like you said, 7 years ago wasn't, this online hobby web series? Could you tell us about GoGTS Live?
Yeah, I think in order to do GoGTS Live justice, I'm going to have to rewind a little bit farther into how I actually got into the collectibles business.
Yep.
Um, I was married in 2000, And in 2001, a friend had said to me, "Hey, when was the last time you were in a card shop?" And I was at his house, and he said, "Check this out." And he was showing me autograph cards. He was showing me cards with game used bat embedded in them. He was showing me jersey cards, with pieces of jersey swatch and patches on them. And I was blown away. I'm like, that's really cool. And it kind of, went in the mental bank, didn't think much of it at the time. In 2002, my wife and I came to a crisis point in our marriage, and it was a result of a lifelong, up until that point, chronic marijuana addiction. And one day I walked into my house in a small intervention with our pastor there, and I realized that, it was time to put childish things away and that regard and focus on things that are eternal. And one of those things, at least here on earth, is my marriage. And so one of the things that was initially a struggle was, man, what do I do with all this time that I previously devoted to my addiction? And it was like, I remembered that conversation with a friend of mine about the trading cards. And I'm like, well, I was always a collector as a kid. I remember how cool they were. And so I went to a shop and just, bought a few packs and kind of got hooked. And at that point, it was a little bit of the Wild West. It's not like it is now, where there was a handful of manufacturers, each producing a specific trading card for each sport.
Right.
You had several different manufacturers producing trading cards for every sport. So it was like, well, what are good brands? What do I buy? What do I spend my money on? And I found a website called cardcornerclub.net. And I had started, the reason that I was drawn to that site versus something like Beckett at the time is I kind of just felt that they were hyping the things that their advertisers wanted to push. This was a little bit more independent, and I was really attracted to it. And so they also had a radio show that I had listened to, and I won a t-shirt. And so the following year, I went to a trade show, big card show. It was I think the 2003 National in Chicago. It might've been the Sun Times show. Don't remember the exact name of the show. And I was wearing my shirt, and all of a sudden I hear someone yell. I mean, and when you yell in an environment like a trade show floor, it's kind of jarring.
Right.
And this person yells, "Nice shirt." And I turn around and I see two people wearing the exact same shirt. And so I struck up a conversation with those guys, and lo and behold, they were the owners of the website. In further conversations, they happened to be looking for some writers to do reviews for product that they were being provided by the manufacturer, and asked me if I had any writing ability. And I do, and did, and continue to do so. And so they provided me, a trial run, and they said, "This is really good. How would you like to be a regular?" And so I started writing for the website. And shortly after that, they asked me to join their podcast. And this was really when there was nothing like that at the time, So I was part of the very first podcast radio show dedicated to sports collectibles.
Wow.
And so fast forward some years, getting back to the fruition of GoGTS Live, and we eventually, our cardcornerclub.net was acquired by a very well-known site called cardboardconnection.com.
Yep.
And so as a labor of love, I was still involved in these things, writing for the website and whatnot, and on a freelance basis or contract basis for Cardboard Connection. And my background and education in marketing led me into a sales career. I mean, and I've sold everything from oh, you name it, from fire safety services to insurance to
That was
I
you that
worked,
knocked on my door. That's what
yeah,
it was. Yeah.
to multimedia
Yeah.
for a business to business organization involved in the construction trade, uh, all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, I really realized that selling wasn't my passion,
Right.
and that it was draining for me to interact all the time with people on an ongoing basis. That's part of sales. And some people are wired that way. And I realized that I wasn't. I was good at selling, but at the end of the day, it was just draining. And so that labor of love continued, writing for the collectibles business. And so I went through a layoff. I went through another layoff. And I remember saying to my wife, this is ridiculous. I'm like, this has never happened before. What is going on? I said, what is going on? She's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, honestly, I just want to write about trading cards all day. And she said, well, figure out a way and do it. And they say behind every good man is a better woman, and
Mhm.
and my wife really is. And so what that led to was me reaching out to various entities and doing freelance basis for multiple companies so that I could make an income. And it was shortly after that I was approached by my partner at cardcornerclub.net and then Cardboard Connection, which became Cardboard Connection Radio. And he said, hey, I got a call from someone at GTS Distribution looking for a full-time freelance position as a marketing specialist. He's like, I'm just not at that point right now, but I recommended you. And so I had a conversation. And so for a year, I started working for GTS Distribution on a contract basis. So that was 2013. And it was that year that, you know, started to become the realization for the need to turn what was an audio only format,
Right.
talking about something so visual as
Right.
trading cards and collectibles, and creating a video show for it. So in 2013 there was plans to create that, and we were at the time looking at selling the show to GTS Distribution and working for them in that capacity as well. Well, I had a falling out with my business partner, and those things happen.
Right.
But he allowed me to retain the rights to the radio show, the YouTube channel, the social media following. And 2014, I was hired full time by GTS Distribution, and that's when GoGTS Live was born. So we've been broadcasting, like I said, and we're in our seventh year now.
Yeah.
Math is not my strong
We've
suit.
been in that time vortex for the last 3 years
I
too.
know,
So,
right?
yeah, yeah,
It's bizarre.
yeah.
So that they immediately saw the benefit and the insight, they being GTS Distribution, and so that was part of my job as marketing specialist. I also hosted and produced the Go GTS live show. Once working for GTS Distribution, I started as a marketing specialist, became a marketing manager, and was eventually, after my boss took a different position, I became the director of marketing. And now I have 2 full-time employees under me, two part-time employees, and like 6 freelance people. So I've really grown professionally in that period of time. And so that brings us to where we are now.
Wow, and that's quite a journey to say the least. And it makes me think. Before we got on air, we kind of talked a little bit about our passions in life and how God has used those. And then hearing your story and you come into that crisis moment, I had a very similar instance. I had some very bad health issues going on, and I was faced with really bad depression to the point where I've contemplated not being here anymore.
Mhm.
And one day my wife was at a Walmart, and we're Red Sox fans, and she saw 2008 Tops, and Manny was on the cover. And so she brought it home, and we opened it, and I started realizing there was this whole new world that, like you said, like the card, there's a piece of the jersey in the card. What is going on?
Mhm.
And so it became something that my wife and I got into, and then through that, and these are hobby terms, but we started to TTM through the mail autographs, seeking and getting back into that, going to local card shows together, and it gave me a little bit of a purpose again when I wasn't able to work and I was going through all this stuff. And it's funny how God uses that passion when I was 8 and 9 to as an adult.
Absolutely. I mean, all praise and glory goes to God for, number one, absolutely delivering me from that addiction. Two, for saving my marriage. And it became very apparent to me that God's hand was there the whole time. In fact,
Mhm.
my life verse is Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, to give you a hope and a future." And in addition to that, there's two other very important verses that immediately follow that talk about that will be fulfilled when you seek him with all of your heart.
That's right.
And so I had always been, I was raised, in the faith, walked away, and eventually, came back right around the time that I got married, because meeting my wife was really the first. It was like, wow, God did have a plan this whole
Mhm.
time. And then to see what transpired those next few years, it was just so clearly evident
Right.
that he was guiding my steps. Um, they say humans make plans, but um, God is the one that lays out the plan that you're supposed to follow.
Yeah,
And when we submit to his will, it's amazing what we can accomplish in his name and for our families. And that's
absolutely.
kind of really where I feel like I'm at today.
Yeah, I just heard an interview. I know you're also a big wrestling fan, and I just heard an interview from Cody Rhodes, and he was talking about his return. And he's not quite a believer, but he said, "Man, seeing how the pieces have been moved into place, somebody's got to be directing the ship."
That's
And
right.
the beauty is that we get to know who is. And so with that all being said, and you kind of gave us insight into how your journey in collecting happened and how that trickled into being a passion and really an unbeknownst career. You said you had a degree in marketing before this. Seeing those puzzle pieces put into place, how big of a factor was your education into what you're doing now, even unbeknownst to what you thought you'd be doing? And maybe what do you wish you kind of would have honed in on more during that time?
Um, yeah, well, I was one of those people that was too immature to go to college right after high school.
Right.
So I did the community college thing. I traveled a lot. I was really big outdoorsman and backpacked the Appalachian Trail, climbed mountains, all sorts of great stuff.
As you can see
And
by this body, I don't do a lot of that.
but there eventually became a point where I was like, all right, I got to get serious. And if I'm
Mhm.
going to be serious, I was at the time living in Colorado, and
Okay.
I'm like, everyone around me was like, I'm like, no one really goes to school here.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
the number of times that I heard my friends like, hey, can you cut class and we go, to Vail today or whatever? And I'm like, I'm never going to get school done if I stay here. I
Right.
said, I got to go back home to Chicago where it's cold and there's nothing to do outside. And so I did that, and I was working full time going to school at night.
Mhm.
So fortunately, I had several credits that were able to transfer for my junior college days, but it still took me 6 years taking 3 classes a day, or a semester rather. And the way I came to that is the first semester I took 4, and working full time and taking 4 classes was just not good.
Right.
And so the formula I put together was, all right, I can graduate with a B average if I take 3 classes that one I know I can get an A in. One I know that if I even show up and do the work, I'll get a B in. And worst case scenario, if I take a class that isn't my strong suit and end up with a C, at the end of the day, that's still a 3.0 grade point average. Now, I graduated with an average higher than that because I think I maybe got 1 or 2 C's during that period of time. But I'll tell you, discipline is something that was instilled in me in that span, because working full time and going to school is a drain. It's tiring. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it can be done. So if you find yourself kind of after the fact, like I did, going, what do I do? Don't give up on education. It's always something that's there for you. And so initially what I wanted to do with my marketing degree is I wanted to go into casino marketing.
Oh.
Well, God had other plans. He said, that may not be the best idea.
You gamble every time you buy a box of cards.
That's
you
right.
do.
So maybe it was, maybe it was more applicable than I thought.
And these days, a whole lot more than before.
Yeah. So, my education taught me things about, analyzing markets, economics, advertising, all sorts of things that play into what I do today, and had learned from all those years ago. But it can also be said that while education is extremely important, there's something to be said about the trades in our country. We have a lot of people that are getting ready to retire in this country that have been tradesmen all their life. I don't know about you, but anytime I call, someone to look at my air conditioning, my plumbing, my electricity, etc., they're all like in their 50s.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, who's going to fix all this stuff when they retire? And so, college isn't for everybody. And so as long as you're committed to learning a trade, that is education as well.
1000%.
So don't let anybody push you per se in, you have to go to college. College is definitely not right for everybody. It was right for me, but it's not to say that I wouldn't have benefited from doing something else, but knowing the plans God had for me, I see that all the pieces were put into place. And so, like I said, when we acknowledge his presence and his will in our lives and allow him to be part of that, he'll make our steps more clear. And so, while I couldn't necessarily see some of those things at the time, as you mentioned, when the puzzle all came into place, I was like, wow. Wow.
It's pretty hindsight's 2020 for a reason. And I agree. I've said to some of my own teenagers in our congregation and stuff, some of the smartest people I know are tradesmen. I can't do half the stuff, and there's a lot of mathematics, and there's a lot of you got to know angles and all this other stuff, whether it be in the automotive fields and HVACs and whatever it may,
construction,
all of that. You need foremans on even assembly lines. And so I wholeheartedly agree that there's a place for everybody, and you can be used in every place you are. Every place you are, you can be used. Well, Rob, I want to be conscious of your time, so I want to get you out of here with 2 more questions. Okay, these are kind of fun questions. All right. One is, we see the boom in sports collecting, and we see the boom. We're seeing it, like I mentioned earlier. We're seeing celebrities now starting to get into sports collecting and entertainment collecting, and it kind of as a result of a lot of this, you've had the opportunity to just interact with some really, really cool people and everything. So I was wondering if you had kind of a favorite interaction, maybe with an athlete or a celebrity through your work with whether it be back in Cardboard Connection, whether it be through GTS, something there.
Yeah, absolutely. The sister site to cardcornerclub.net is a site that still exists today, sportsology.net, that provided more mainstream sports coverage. And I would periodically cover various games and outlets and things of that nature from a sports perspective. One of the greatest thrills of my lifetime as a lifelong Blackhawks fan was when the Hawks made it to the Stanley Cup final in 2010 for the first time since not the final, but it was the year they won, and that was the first year since 1961.
Right.
And so they hadn't won in my lifetime up until that point. And one of my business partners asked me if I wanted to cover the games. And yeah, and so what that means is, full media credentials.
Wow.
And so I find myself in the post-game locker room, and I'm standing right in front of the captain, Jonathan Taves.
Wow.
And I'm listening to the reporters from ABC, NBC, ESPN, this, that, asking questions. And there was a pregnant pause. And I'm like, well, I'm here to do a job. My mind's racing. I'm like, I got to do something. And so trying to make my voice not squeak and look like a starstruck idiot, I found myself, and I don't remember what the question was, but I do remember, asking Jonathan Taves a question, him looking right at me and giving me an answer. And I've got my voice recorder there. And so, I would definitely say that covering all three of the Blackhawks Stanley Cup runs last decade, 2010, 13, and 15, unbelievable.
Was the cup in the room?
The cup was not. I was not covering any of
the clinchers,
final games, clinchers. Unfortunately, that was something that still irks me a little bit. But that was. Those were just moments I'll absolutely never ever forget.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Like, for sure, that's stuff you get to show your kids and grandkids down the way, and those are the cool moments.
Well, for sure.
So, last question for you, and this is one I'm kind of giving everybody, is what would Rob Bertrand say to 12-year-old Rob Bertrand?
Don't ever try to self-medicate. Your problems can be solved in other ways, especially when you're walking with the Lord.
I love it. I love it. Well, make sure, Rob, do you want to fill everybody in on your socials that you want to share as far as GTS's socials, the show, anything like that?
Sure. Follow GoGTS Live, just that, on Twitter and Facebook. Also, you can visit GoGTS.net for all of that marketing and fun product information we talked about. And then you can watch us on Twitch and YouTube /GoGTS Live. So if you search GoGTS Live, you'll find us everywhere.
Absolutely. It's every Thursday at 9:00, and it's a great show. There's great segments informing you about upcoming products, things going on in the hobby. And thanks to some great producers of the products, they get them the hookup every week, and you, the viewer, gets to benefit. Rob spends his Saturdays mailing dozens of very expensive cards to people all over the country, and I thank you for doing that for us as well.
Absolutely.
So, well, on behalf of the Salvation Army, we thank you, and we thank you all for tuning in this week. And make sure you tune in every week for Get to Know Me. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. And remember, God's got a plan for you, and it's going to involve those passions you have. So make sure to keep after it. All right. God bless you all. See you later.